We've got some.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
We spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit. And today, we're bringing them to you so you can take action immediately and start creating real content momentum.
If you'd like to learn more about how to turn your content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Oh, yeah.
It's Monday today. The energy is... You can tell we're recharged through the weekend.
Well, for me, it's coffee too, so just saying it. All right. Another week, another Monday, and of course, an epic guest. You know, when you go asking people for referrals and they keep bringing up the same person, that's what happened with today's guest. So naturally, we set out on a mission to bring her to Content is Profit.
Oh, yeah. Today's guest is the online queen of mom blogs. If that's even a thing, we don't know, but maybe we just created one of those things, right? As you can imagine, she has one of the biggest mom blogs out there that has allowed her to help thousands of other moms.
Including my wife, Katie. She
go.
loves the blog, by the way. So not only that, she is a brilliant marketer that uses analytics for nearly everything. So then she can take efficient action. Oh, yeah. I'm going to love this conversation. She is also writing her fourth book, and she managed to retire her husband from stressful job. Amazing.
That is so exciting. Please welcome founder of kidsactivities.com, super mom, and the coolest mom of the blog, potentially the internet, Miss Holly Hummer. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. I feel so underdressed without purple on.
I mean, Fonzie, you didn't send her the email, man?
I forgot to send the email. I take full responsibility.
Yeah, for those listening, guys, like, Fonzie is matching me like he always wants to do. I always try to avoid it, but he's like, man, like, I really want to look like you, Luisa, today. So
I think that's
wearing a purple t-shirt.
I think that's like a younger sibling thing, right? Holly, how many kids do you have?
I have 3 boys, but I was going to say, I think it's a subconscious thing because when the kids were small and I picked out their clothes, I would look around and we'd all be matching by accident. It wasn't on purpose.
But do the younger ones want to be like the older brother?
They're teenagers now, so there's not at all.
This is how I see it throughout my life. When I was little, I was like, I want to be like my older brother. And then as I grew up, I'm like, I am just myself. I want to be like my brother. And now that I'm going again, he's such a good example that I want to be like him. And we're purple.
Yeah, they're in that middle stage right now. Nothing's cool.
Holly, it will get better. I promise. Thank you so much for joining us today in Content is Profit. Like, it's like talking to like royalty. I promise you, this is so awesome. Like, we've heard so many good things. So, like, why don't you share a little bit of your story with the audience? You know, we jumped on a call like a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, like, wow, you are very humble. This is your time to brag. Go ahead, say it, everything.
No, I think the interesting thing about what I do today is it's completely by accident, like on purpose. So
Love it.
like I did the traditional thing where I went and got a master's degree in physical therapy, and I was a physical therapist for many years. I specialize in chronic pain. And then, but I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so when my husband could finally support our family, we started having children, and he's a doctor. So he had a lot of training to do to get us to that point. And so when I was home with these kids and I was trying to like juggle and try to like stay sane because like there was lots of chaos in the house. And I just accidentally started a blog. One of my friends just told me to do that. And I had no idea what a blog was. I just started, and I realized really quickly that, oh my gosh, like I will save so much money on my scrapbooking habit because I can just post the pictures and I won't have to make like double scrapbooks, like one for my mom and one for my great aunt and all that. They can just come to like this magical thing called a blog.
Yeah.
So I started with 3 readers and And over the years, that was 15 years ago. And this summer we had 1 month out of the summer was my biggest month ever on the blog. And we had 10 million readers that month.
Wow. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Holly, congrats. That's all. We're in the publishing game, obviously not blogging yet, but we understand like how challenging that can be, right?
Well,
Like,
I want to ask something. Blogging is a form of publishing.
exactly. My clarification was like, we both publish. We just like our main thing is the podcast.
Yeah, different vehicles.
Different vehicles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
thank you, Fonzie. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're smart.
She drives a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And we're going to a Volvo
The Mini Cooper
The
in the
Mini
back.
Cooper, I like it, yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So continue. Sorry, the interruption. So tangents. Yeah, it happens Mondays. When
So basically, the cool thing is, and everything that I teach and everything that has happened to me is not because I sought out to do any of this or to make it like, or even know where I was headed with any of this, but I was just, when I look back, it's because I was willing to do something that was a little uncomfortable. And and then like you mentioned in my bio, like I'm super into analytics. And so I really look at all those trials is data gathering. And then it takes your heart out of it as much. So you're not like, there's no crying in baseball kind of thing. You're not so invested in it if you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this and see how the data turns out. So
yes. That's so good.
Wow.
That's a topic that's come up, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because that was exactly what happened. Like we spent the first almost 4 years, looking for that perfect piece of content, right? Like not only for us but for our clients, and we didn't know what we didn't know, and the clients like, if it's not client ready, like it can't go out there, right? And internally for us, that was a massive friction point to starting to publish, and we switched the perspective, and we're like, hey, let's see what happens, right? Like to your point, like let's gather data, let's see what the reaction are, and then we can go from there. And wow, like the weight that just like came off our shoulders when we decided to take that decision was like massive, right? And we went from one Facebook Live a day to now we publish more than 100 different pieces of content every single week to see what happens. But guess what? Like while you're seeing what happens, there's a lot of traction with different opportunities and different things that come through it. So thank you for bringing that point on. It's super exciting to see that other people do that too.
I'm curious, like where, so, you went from 3 readers to 10 million, which is insane. I'm curious, where are you going now? Like what is in your mind right now? Because you say you started without a clear goal in mind, right? You were just doing, but I'm guessing as this project has evolved, maybe some goals have shown up as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because like when I started all this, I was like an anti-goal type person. Like, don't make me, keep to a schedule. Don't make me write down what I'm going to be in 5 years. In fact, a few years ago, I was at a conference, and that was back when all those vision boards, like Oprah was still around, and the vision boards were really big. And I was like, I don't know. Don't pen me in, man. I have no idea, because, and one of the reasons why, like, I didn't want to put it out there as much, and I've changed a little bit, is because I look back 5 years and I thought I would have never put any of this on a vision board. Like, this is so different than anything. Like, and it's so much, I would have inhibited my own progress, because my goals would have been really like different, because where I want to be in 5 years hasn't been invented yet. like there's nobody doing it. Just like what I'm doing now wasn't available, 5-7 years ago. And so to a certain, now I've gotten a little woo woo, and I'm into like, putting it out into the universe and stuff like that. But like not in a super concrete way. I truly, truly believe that just like the path is there through doing. And the more you do, the more the path becomes very, very clear. And then you don't have to worry about all those things that you tried that just fell to the side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I love, and just so you know, we love the woo-woo stuff. We grew up with, our mom is super spiritual, and I think we got a lot from our mom in that sense, right? And what you just mentioned is something that I feel I've been struggling personally with, which is not having, not like a clear goal, but just like, who do I want to be in 5 years from now? Like, where do I see myself in 5 years from now? I see myself being successful at whatever it is I'm doing at that point. The thing is, what that I'm going to be doing at that point? That's what I don't know, right? So I identified with you. Oh, sorry, Holly. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's actually kind of where I like to be, is in that general idea. So one of the things that came up at that conference is there's a lot of people that are like, I want to be on the Oprah show. I want to be featured in O Magazine, that kind of stuff, because that was just kind of the thing that was in the universe. And I was like, no, like, I don't. I want to be like Oprah. Like, I want to control my own destiny. I don't want to be sitting around waiting for an invitation. Now, I'm not Oprah yet or anything. But I mean, that general direction of being in control of my own destiny is kind of where a lot of these things lead, is when something comes up and I'm like, oh, is that towards freedom and control of my own destiny, or is that away from it? And sometimes, even if you don't know, you're trying it out and seeing how it goes. But that's kind of like a deciding factor for me in the direction to go. But for the most part, like, just running and hoping there's not a wall right in front of you is where I recommend it.
I love it. And actually today I was reading a few articles about, kind of like having a goal in mind, right? Like becoming that person. And I'm kind of looking here at the quotes that I underlined, but it was, look at this one. We are kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. So that means, right, like, people that don't really know what their ultimate goal is, they say you're going to fall short because you're going to, just kind of like, I lost the word. The Spanish is coming to my mind right now.
Say it in Spanish.
They're just gonna kind of like accept a lesser goal, right? And they're just gonna be like, it's okay, if I can reach this one, I am good. So for me personally, I'm struggling because I don't per se have a physical, tangible goal that I can touch and see, and I'm like, that's where I'm gonna be. But I can feel inside. I'm like, I know we're meant for like great things, right? Like, I can feel it, and I'm gonna take the action to do that. Right. So I know it's a message that collides with a lot of people, because I'm living it at this point. And I'm curious on what were some of your challenges going through that, right? Because going from, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, I'm just testing. And then, okay, now that this is growing, now that I have a more of a clear image of where I'm going, right, with every step that I'm taking, I'm sure you have to face a few challenges on your way.
Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge was even realizing that this was something, or that giving myself like kind of the credit for building something that could amount to something. Because like 15 years ago, like, blogs were blogs and nobody on the internet was making money. And then like you go in a few years, there was Google AdSense. And so, you might make, $100 or something like that here and there. And then you do some affiliate deals. But a lot of times that was kind of like, a little iffy. There was a lot of iffiness on the internet at the very beginning. And in fact, when I first put on like Google AdSense on my blog, I got these emails from fellow bloggers that I had sold out. I was like, okay, I feel like we're not on the same path here. But because I was like, if someone's going to make money on the internet, might as well be me.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I always had that in the back of my head, but I didn't realize like that I had actually been doing it. So I guess it was about 5 years ago when we realized that my husband's job was killing him. And I mean, I laugh about that, but it was awful. Like, he was a different person than I had married, and it wasn't through any it wasn't his fault. He was under so much stress, and he's a physician, and like they were paying by productivity. And like, so, you had to go faster and faster and faster, yet that does not benefit the patient. And so that weighs heavy on you. I mean, and it was awful. And he was working really long hours. They weren't giving him time off. And it was crazy stressful. And, this is something that he had worked his whole life to achieve. Going through, graduate school, medical school, internship, residency, and then we went joined the Air Force to pay back the medical school bills. And so this has been almost over half his life has been going towards this. And then then you realize, oh my gosh, like life's too short. Like I literally said that life is too short for you to have this job. Like we have to figure out a different way. Like I don't care if I have to live in an apartment somewhere, and we both work just regular jobs. Like we've got to figure this out because this is not okay. Like this is not okay. Absolutely. So we bought into some franchises. Because we figured out that if we opened up like 9 stores, that it would like replace his income and stuff like that. So we're like, oh, well, I'll do that while I'll get some of these open. And once we get to 4 or 5, then he'll quit and join and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, over a year of like me, and I'm very persistent, throwing myself into these franchises, like it just would not go. It would not go. Like, and what was happening is we live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The franchise had basically oversold Dallas-Fort Worth. So they wouldn't give us stores. Like I had paperwork saying that they owed me stores, and I was going all over saying would be a good place. This would be a good place. This would be a good place. And they couldn't physically give me a store because they'd oversold, but they didn't tell me that, or, they couldn't admit that, or else they'd have a big giant lawsuit on their hand. But, so a year in fact, the crazy thing is I got, copied by accident. I feel like there's no accidents on an email that I wasn't supposed to see, that basically was another gentleman with the same story plus 5 years that lived in another part of Texas. His phone number was on the bottom. And like, I called him up and I was like, I know you don't know me, but I live in Dallas and your story sounds very similar. And he goes, I've been doing this for 6 years and I still don't have the stores they promised me. He said, so if you can get out, run. And so we sold our stores basically that week. Cause I was like, this is not, all this effort going to zero. And I'm just like, but this was your ticket out. This was it. And he sat down and he looked at the finances and he said, Holly, have you really been paying attention to what your blog has been doing while you've been doing all this stuff for the franchises? And I'm like, well, I know it's doing better, and, I know we have more sponsors and all this kind of stuff. He goes, what if you had spent all that time on your blog instead of on this franchise situation? And sure enough, that next year, it was just a huge blessing that the franchises didn't come through, because the next year I made more than he did. And, and so it was a much easier transition to bring him into our company instead of trying to juggle stores across the Metroplex. What we can't control because they won't give them to us.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Cool yeah.
First of all, wait, sorry.
No, stop. No, I'm kidding.
I used to live in Dallas. So I lived in Dallas for 2 years when I first got to the States. I actually lived in Wichita Falls for a year and then in Dallas.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. So whenever we go, we're gonna have to visit you, Holly. And I mean, I love this story. Would you say is like accidental how the blog became a business in a sense?
Yeah. So like, yes and no. Like I was very strategic once I realized that this was going to make money. So I was the first one that was signed up with any new sponsorship. In fact, I actually ran a company called Business to Blogger, which was that I started many years ago. It was really the first company that was hooking bloggers up with businesses that needed, like I was running that business because I saw there was money. I saw that there was people. Now there wasn't a lot of money in that business back then because they didn't actually realize the value of it, and it was like hurting cats. So it wasn't exactly my thing, but I realized really quickly how to work with sponsors and how to deliver in a way that made it like really worth their while to spend money with you. And so the early days was more about sponsorships, and I got to work with some amazing companies that were just starting in the mom blog space. Chevy was one of the first ones. They put us in cars here in Dallas, and we wrote about it and took pictures and videos and all this kind of stuff. And then I ended up running the Chevy blogger program for a little while, and so it was kind of like that, like. It wasn't super intentional knowing exactly what this was going to look like, because really nobody knew what this was going to look like. I just was like, if it is going to pay money or make money or connect me to a payer, let's explore that. Let me get really good at whatever that is, whether it be a relationship or a technique or a sale, learning what they know. Because see, they all have marketing departments, and bloggers, we learn that by osmosis and by learning from other people. So we're like, I was trying to figure out what they knew, and and social media and all that kind of stuff. So I was always trying to connect the dots. But I think I had no idea just how big those dots could be, because it just started off so slowly, and it was and a lot of times you would take something that like you might break even or even lose a little money on just to learn how to do it. And that was something I was like, if I'm just like moving in the right direction, if I'm just always trying to think about positioning myself to be the person that people think of when they are looking for somebody to do X.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And I love, and I can see that you have like you can spot opportunities, right? And really take advantage of them. And I find that super interesting because especially in the world that we live in now with, people, so many offers, so many people that you would like to follow and learn from, so many skills that we could learn, we tend to jump from opportunity to opportunity, right? And we were there. We were chasing the shiny object for the longest time. I'm sure there's a lot of marketers out there that are still doing that, right? And it wasn't until actually we grab one opportunity and just focus on that one that actually we started seeing some progress. So I think, I love the fact that you mentioned this, because I can see it in your mind. I'm like, hey, like you're still aware that there are other opportunities, but once you find one that you say, this is the one that it might move me forward for the longest time, I'm going to ride that opportunity, I think is great. And in a sense, it makes me think, is it your analytical side, right? With the data that helps you see these opportunities. I think my brother here wants to make a question. I would love to know, like, is there a process for you to spot these opportunities?
Yeah, you can go ahead. We think very similar. So it was like a question going that way too.
I definitely think that helps. So, my background in science and, in the laboratory, like, I taught gross anatomy, like dissecting humans in the lab over the summer and stuff like that. Like, I'm very like looking at knowing that there is a path to understanding that can sometimes be very unclear. And so I think that's kind of just the mindset like that you take into your business every day. And, I'm like one of the worst shiny object for people as well. But I think I can give encouragement to those of you who feel very distracted and shiny object prone, that once you find your path, there's still a lot of shiny objects. In fact, what's kind of cool is that there's more opportunity that like one shiny object will lead to another. And I think my mind really changed a little bit too when I try to get to the position in whatever, whether it be, blogging or social media or sponsorships or anything like that, is to be able to get to coaching, to be able to get to the point where I can say no. And then the I can say no becomes kind of the new shiny object to a certain extent. And because like when you're just chasing objects, it's yes, 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 and you're actually have a lot less control over what's going on than when you can be searching out those ones that you can say no to. And if you can like make that an empowering move in your business, then like I can't tell you how amazing. So I had a sponsor. Sponsor horror stories. Okay, because there are some sponsors in the world that will make you sell your soul. So this particular sponsor was a delicate feminine product that I can talk about anything with, online. I'm a mom. I've been married for 28 years, so I can talk. But I need to tell my story. So in the contract, which was a year-long contract, was something that most bloggers said no to. I should have listened to, but the money was good. So in the contract, I made sure, I went back in and I had them rewrite it. Like I needed to be able to approve this, do this, and do this. And so I started the year, and the first month went great. And then the second month, they started pushing back. And by the third month, they were pushing back so much that I was basically had a really bad attitude about it and said, okay, I'm just going to publish whatever they approve. Like whatever they say, I'm going to publish it. And you know that you're not publishing the right stuff when the first comment on one of my Instagram was WTF.
Oh no.
I was like, I don't disagree with you. WTF. So anyway, the year was miserable, and I felt like it was like this tug of war that I had just lost, and I just let them control the narrative. And so at the end of the year, when my agent came to me and said they'd like to renew, I said, I will not renew with them for $1 million. And let me be clear, they did not pay me anything close to $1 million a year before. And it was really funny. She started laughing so hard. And I was like, but that was like one of those empowering moments that you're like, no, like literally they could come to me with $1 million and I will still say no. And so if you can find those little, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, and please don't make it a year contract. You can find those smaller times that you can just be like, yeah, I think I'm going to pass on that. I'm good. That can be really, really help you narrow down that shiny object.
Thank you for sharing that. As you're describing this story, I can picture exactly what happened with us, right? Like we started the agency about 4 years ago, and same thing. It was yes to every single opportunity coming our way, meaning, email marketing, funnels, content, video for companies, events videos, right? And all this stuff. We got to a point where we were so frustrated, not only with the client, but for, ourselves. We couldn't even see each other, right? We're like, Fonzie, just get away. And then it took us to a path with this relationship with certain clients where we're like, never again in our life we're gonna put ourselves in a situation like that, right? And I think that's important in the path of figuring these things out, right? I think that's a key element that a lot of I've seen it as a trend as we have conversations, because everybody has a story like that. Now, going back a little bit, what Francis said with opportunities, right? You saw your blogging was your vehicle. And sometimes when we talk content or when we talk marketing, people tend to have a very linear view of what that could mean for the business, right? It's like, hey, I publish content. This piece of content is going to bring me X amount of money, right? And then what we discovered through our journey on the podcast is now the podcast is our vehicle now to build amazing relationships, to build amazing friendships, to build conversations, to maybe that is an opportunity in 2-3 months, right? Which has happened. The content itself is doing the job with the audience, and we're building this awesome community. It's not formalized yet, but we know that there's people following and having these conversations with us. And I feel like that's a really hard thing to see when you're starting out. So my question to you is why do people fixate so much on that? This piece of content, this blog that I did last month, X amount of views, how much money is going to bring me, instead of like trying to see the big picture on like, wow, this is my vehicle. Look at all these opportunities that are coming around that, right? Like your sponsorship with Chevy, like you going in and running the blog for Chevrolet, like that kind of stuff, right? So the more and more we do this, the more and more we find these opportunities. And now my return on investment is massive. So we honestly don't even care. We could be doing this every single day, right? Because we're like, man, like it pays for it. And we had a conversation with one of our advisors the other day, and he was like, how much money are you investing in your team for your own content, right? We're talking about capacity on like the production line with our clients and with us, because we put our content in there. And he's like, you guys should like just grab that and put it away and like maybe do something different. We're like, no, because we see the benefit on the other side as well, right? So why do people struggle so much in seeing those opportunities around the vehicle that they're building?
Yeah, I love this question. And it's not something that I was super clear on until I went through some coaching in the internet marketing space. Didn't realize that a lot of internet marketers or people who sell things on the internet and that kind of stuff, they have a very different like relationship with content than I do. So my blog has over 10,000 blog posts on it. And so and what I need people to understand about content in general is it's a home base. That's all it is. It's a home base. It's a place that you own, that you get to come home to, and that you control the narrative around. But then it allows you, because you have a secure home, to go out and try other things without risk, or the risk is very minimal because you're not touching your home base. But So content, I think, and yes, quality over quantity is actually a bunch of BS, because to a certain extent, like you could have written the most brilliant blog post in the world or had the most amazing interview. And yes, it would be good for a while, but the internet is unforgiving and forgets you. Yep. So it needs to be prolific. But the good news is, if it's prolific, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be friendly and connection based. And this is what I think a lot of people who are stressing out about pushing that publish button or pushing that podcast live or that video live is, what you don't understand is people, if they were looking for perfection, they would go and watch television. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for connection. And guess what? Okay, so I was never a Martha Stewart fan, because like, who wants Martha Stewart as a friend? Like, you're like, hey, Martha, come over for dinner. Oh crap. Like I need to like clean up. I need to like cook a lot. I need to like, there's no joy in that relationship. Like, she's super judgy until she went to jail. Oh my gosh, now we have something to talk about, because she's not perfect, and I think that's so you can do this without going to jail. Just saying.
Thank you for clarifying. Fonzie was about to he was planning his plot. What do I do now? But
I need you to think about stop with and social media is so full of this, of people going and putting this glossy veneer on themselves, not realizing that's working against them for the connection. Because what connects us together is, oh my gosh, you lived in Texas. Oh my gosh, we have a mutual friend. Oh, last time we were together, so-and-so did something so embarrassing that we can't stop laughing about it today. And so when you think about your best friends and what you spend a lot of time talking about, it's the goofy non-perfection moments that bind us. So the fact that we're all marching to the internet to be super perfect is really scary to me. It's really, really anti everything that we stand for. So when you can put yourself into a position of just, being yourself on the internet and attracting the people who are going to be attracted, and saying no to the people who are not going to be attracted, that's another powerful thing. Like my email list will get about 120 unsubscribes today. And I'm like, yes. 120 people I don't have to pay for on my email list.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, this is what we need to think about. So when you think about it as a home base and that perfection is absolutely counterproductive, then it allows you to do the freedom of all these other things. So yeah, I'm a blogger, but I've logged thousands of hours on live video. We sold, like, 1 year, we had a boutique online. We sold over $1.5 million worth of clothing on Facebook Live, like 3-hour shows every single night. Like, people were not watching that because we were perfect. They were watching that because we were about to say something inappropriate after being on the camera for 2.5 hours. So, and it just made us realize how it is all about the connection and how you and someone else like feel about each other, which I know sounds kind of weird when you're talking about video or a blog post or a podcast, but you have your friend's ear. And like, I was really lucky that I came about this early on. I ended up, I had been asked here in Dallas to come on the TV several times, and because I was a mom blogger. And this was probably 7 or 8, 9 years ago, maybe. And I was always really nervous on camera. And so I made it through the first 1 or 2, and then they asked me to come speak about something, and I don't even know what happened, but it was like a 30-second segment, and I like was frozen the first 15 seconds of a 30-second segment. It was awful. And it's like live television, and like everybody in the studio is just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was horrifying. And I like my house is about 40 minutes from the studio, so I was just like crying the whole way home, like I suck, and I'm like, I'm not gonna suck like this anymore. And so I was like, okay, what do I have to do to get good at video? And I was like, video. So, and I'm terrible at editing. And so that was back in the days, like when dinosaurs roamed the internet and Google Plus was around. And so Google Plus had just released Hangouts where you could like go live, basically live video and talk, and then it would go up to your YouTube channel. So I was like, oh, I don't have to edit. So I started just turning on the camera every single day and just talking. And it was probably about 100 hours into that I felt comfortable on camera. Like I wasn't freaking out before I turned on the camera. So we go to a blogging conference, and I didn't know because Google Plus was not like live video, like people showed up, like nobody was on Google Plus.
Well, I don't think anybody's like, do you even know what Google Plus was? It was kind of like that.
It was like an extension for YouTube, because basically then after you do the live video, it would roll up to your YouTube channel, and it'd be like a YouTube video that people wouldn't even really know was on Google Plus originally. So what I didn't know, because I wasn't paying attention, was that I was kind of teaching what I knew about blogging, and and we were building the Facebook page at the time. So I was talking about that, and people were watching the YouTube videos, but I had no idea. So I go to this blogging conference after I have hundreds of hours of video on the internet, and people are like coming up to me and just like dropping into a conversation, like dropping into a conversation with me. And I'm not great with names, but I'm not terrible with names. And my Rolodex is like whirling, and I'm trying to remember, where do I know them from? Where do they know? And it was without fail, they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm so-and-so. I've watched all your YouTube videos.
Ooh, that's so awesome.
And so what had happened, and what I had accidentally come across, was when you're doing live video, back then it was a kind of odd because they were long, is like the doorbell would ring, or one of my kids would call 911. Happened. So they had peeked into my home in addition to the words I was saying. So they knew my heart. So by the time I met them, we skipped all, like we were already friends in their mind. And so that's that. And I just get goosebumps when I think about that, because what an amazing thing we have through podcasts and video and writing is that when people meet us in real life, we're already friends. We're already friends. We don't even have to do small talk. It's cemented.
It's immediate.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's such a filter. Like I am such a fan of this story because we often refer to the safety net effect of the content, right? Like, and that's something that we talk with our clients, with our partners. Is like, it's very important to have that in there, like not just for the audience, like the people are gonna research you, right? And like this is such a cool stuff because it was like from the very beginning of like the internet, like Google Plus. I think like they were trying to push it to all their social medias, like you have to do the Google Plus. But at the end of the day, we have that experience with people coming onto the show or reaching out for us to be on their show, and they know probably more stories than we're like. Do you remember talking about that story, Fonzie? Because I don't. And they're like, oh my god, yeah. And then your son and your dog and your thing, and you're like, this is what happened, and we're like, wow. And then immediate report, right? And then from there, you know, who knows what can happen, like what the next conversation can lead to, right? Like we tend to relate it to the profit side of things, but profit for us mean time, right? Good relationships, like a ton of stuff, right? And it's awesome. So thank you for sharing that story with us.
I love the fact, you know, I think the two main points here is avoid perfectionism, right? Because people are coming here for authenticity, which is the second point, right? That transparency is key, right? And you know, we were those people that wanted to be perfect. Quick story. About almost 2 years ago, we wanted to start the podcast. We bought the entire equipment. We're like, let's buy equipment so we commit to do it.
That's the excuse. My wife is like, you just spent like $1,000. What? And we're like, yeah, baby. Like, this is an investment. This is not expensive. We're actually gonna do this.
Exactly. And so we set up actually in our apartment. In my room, we had like a light, 2 cameras, like the equipment. Like my girlfriend, when she would walk in, she would be like,
"What are you recording in this room?"
I'm out of here. Yeah, I'm out of here.
That's where the real money is on the internet. I'm just saying.
So we started recording actually, but we wanted to make it so perfect, right? That we added so much friction. And guess what? None of those episodes have ever seen the light, and they probably will never see the light.
Yeah,
because we probably won't go back and edit those. It's a lot of work, right?
If people see them, they'll probably be the way they are. It's like 3 different cameras and like me spilling the beer on top of the laptop. Like it was no bueno, no good.
And it wasn't until actually like 1.5 years later that we were like, you know what? Let's do it, and let's do it live. Because just like you said, we don't have to edit. Let's just do it, and we're gonna put it out there. If we make mistakes, cool. And you know, this is episode 106, and we made a bunch of mistakes just starting the podcast. We were cracking up, like, you know, the voice, everything going wrong. But again, I think it's a matter of perspective, right? I think people need to get used to that transparency and authenticity. I feel like the new way of doing business. You even see big corporations trying now to look that way in the internet, because that is the way it is now, and people are going to connect with you because of who you are, because of for who you pretend to be. And I love the quality over quantity. Especially there's like this little story, I might butcher it because I haven't told it in a while, but it's like there's a bunch of kids in this class, and the teacher is like, it's a photography class. She's like, okay guys, there's only one project for this semester. I want the best picture. Right, just the best picture. So half the class, you only have one chance to get the perfect picture. The other half of the class, you can take 100 pictures if you want, but you only can give me your best one, right? And then who do you think got the best picture? Right? Is the kids.
Definitely the one that took the most.
Exactly. So and that just translates to real life and everything we do. If we just try to do it perfect, but it's your first time doing it too, we're probably never gonna be there, and then we're never gonna publish. Like you said, we're never gonna hit that publish button. But if we do it consistently, right, and we try to find who we are, or voice, or message, or tribe, right, then by picture 100, we're gonna be so freaking comfortable and so good at it that every picture after that is just going to be absolutely amazing.
I want to add a little bit to that. You know, Holly, you impact like thousands of people like every single day.
Excuse me. Millions.
Millions. Millions.
Please use the M word.
Sorry, hold on. Yes, my bad. Million. There we go. We're going to add dramatic to it. That's right. Millions. It's not often that we talk to people that impact millions of lives. Exactly. So that's probably what's ingrained in my head. But like, if you never started, like this will not happen, right? Like, and we often say about the hourglass effect, like that one person that you help, then they're gonna turn around, they're gonna help so many other, and you know, for your specific niche on the blog or whatever the conversation leads to, that's so important. But like, you have to start at some point, and you know, you described your journey at the very beginning, kind of like starting a little bit accidental. I do believe that there's certain parts in there that are very key. Mark was telling us Friday that you publish about 75 pieces of content every single day, right? Like that is like.
Yeah.
Incredible. So in just a second, I would like for you to like extend on that just a second, just a little bit, because we're like, hey, like for us, that's it. Like we're pushing the envelope on quantity. We're like, have we seen something negative out of it? No, zero. Right? And we're not even close to 75 pieces a day. So this is very encouraging to the way that we do our stuff. But anyways, so you describe it as a process that kind of started very organically, and then it started to evolve into this like very formal thing and so on. Now, there's people that start publishing with that formal end in mind, right? So what would you say to them? Like, what would be some of your advice to those people that are intentionally starting either a blog or a publishing platform for business?
So, I want to tell a story before we're done here that I think is really important about the type of content a business like they need to do. But I really do want to get into the quantity, because I do think that is something that is not discussed on the internet. In fact, so when we were building the Quirky Mama Facebook page, which has 3.5 million fans on it today, we were in that kind of that time period of social media knowledge that basically was saying to everybody, you can't publish more than twice a day on your Facebook page because you will alienate your followers. So first of all, like when I first started this, we started this like growth process when the page was about 12,000 fans. And so, but those had been brought on a lot by a lot of giveaways and a lot of spammy things that Facebook used to let us do on the internet. And I really looked at those 12,000 people as pretty much dead. And so I thought at first, I was like, I'm just going to wake the dead. It was literally, let's just wake the dead, you know? So we would publish a few, I was publishing maybe 4 or 5 times a day. Cause I was like, I want to alienate them. I want them to either like us, what we're doing, or get the heck out of Dodge. So that was kind of the beginning thing. And then this was right when Pinterest started taking off. And I noticed that like I was doing really well on Pinterest, just doing what we were doing. And I was pinning maybe 100 things a day. And I realized that nobody on Pinterest was like, you can't pin, like you pinned too much today. As long as it was amazing, like people were following me and I was getting more and more followers because everything I was pinning was amazing. And I think that's something that we also need to realize is that we know more about the internet than a lot of people, like your average follower. So I know where to go get the best stuff. I know where the best stuff is. I know who writes the best stuff. If it's not me, I know where to go get it. So then I was like, why don't we do the Pinterest strategy on the Facebook page? So we started with 12 posts a day. And then we went to 24 posts a day. And because the whole time I'm an analytics girl, and every day I'm opening up my analytics. In fact, I was posting and then we would watch the analytics. That's how obsessed it was. And we could tell really quickly if something was going to do well or not. But the point, my thought process is, why don't I make this like everything a mom would ever want to see on Facebook? Let Quirky Mama deliver that. So like recipes and kids activities and fun things to buy and quirky, funny TV shows. And so all those things in a family friendly way. Without any like politics or religion or anything like that, just really family friendly fun. That's kind of what that. And so I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And we settled probably in the 24 to 35 posts a day range for a while there. And was able to do in 1 year and 4 days, I attracted 1 million organic fans to Quirky Mama through that process. And but it was not without its critics. So I was I don't know if you know Michael Stelzner, who does Social Media Examiner, which is like the largest social media website, and then he runs Social Media Marketing World. Well, he back then used to run a kids site. And so he had a podcast, and so he had me on his kids podcast because my book had just come out and stuff. And so we were talking, about kid stuff and all this kind of stuff. And then at once we shut down, he goes, "Hey, I noticed that your Facebook page is growing. What you doing over there?" And so I was like, that's what I really want to talk about. And so I ended up on his Social Media Marketing World podcast a month or so later to discuss the Facebook growth. Well, I had very controversial, I had happened upon, because I had stopped listening to everybody and just looked at my analytics. I had realized that Facebook didn't like it when I used a third-party scheduler to schedule something. So we were using just the Facebook scheduler, and live posting was preferred, but of course you can't do that in the middle of the night, so whatever. And then the other thing is that I had totally blown the lid off of the math of just posting twice a day. Well, this did not go over well with me.
I can't imagine. I would have loved to be in that room though with that conversation.
With the powers that be. In fact, he asked me, I started speaking at Social Media Marketing World that next year. And from the stage of one of the things, and they didn't know my name, thank God, but I was basically called out as some crazy person that was pushing the number of posts a day and had the wrong idea that third-party schedule. And I was like, dudes, all I'm doing is the math on my own thing. I didn't tell everyone else to go do that. But it was just really funny. I had never realized how controversial growing your own Facebook page could be. But it's true that people they're finding their turf by creating some sort of system that may or may not work. And I think that's you have to be careful on the internet these days about gurus, because you need to find someone who's in the trenches doing it every day. Otherwise, they're not actually a true guru. There's somebody who's just making crap up and selling it. And that can be very profitable. There's lots of people that do that. But, absolutely. And if they're not teaching you how to analyze whether what you're doing is working, that's a problem too, because then that makes you dependent. So that's the bottom line with all of this. And today, Quirky Mama, we publish, and I do not recommend this for anyone. In fact, if you want Facebook advice, I'll give you Facebook advice. But just to give you an idea, we do publish about 75 times a day on Quirky Mama, sometimes a little bit more. My blog publishes between 5 and 12 times a day. And I have help that helps me do all this. But I want to say that out loud, not because you need to be doing that, but I want you to say that out loud so that you break out of a box of this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
You get to choose. This is your adventure. You get to choose where you're going with it.
Yeah, I love it. And as you were saying this, I was wondering who said that you couldn't post more than 2 times a day. And what comes to my mind is probably someone with an agenda of pushing something, right? Pushing the schedulers, or maybe someone that didn't have the capacity of creating that many amount of pieces, and he wanted to be seen as an authority. So he said, I'm going to make this my message, and I'm going to start pushing this, right? Yeah. But what I love about you is that you are action-based, and you tested yourself, and you have the tangible results to say, look, I grew my page
That's the
published.
same.
Way
You
more
you
than
can't
people
argue with success.
Exactly. Like, here's the thing. I remember like when we first started talking about, hey, how do we build our own content machine? How do we build like this system that we do now? And we remember seeing, Russell and Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and like all these guys are publishing like 24/7. They're out there, and we're like, dude, if they're doing it, there has to be like a reason of why they're doing it, right? Like they're being successful, and that was the people that we kind of looked up to at the time. So we're like, initially we cannot create that output. We don't have the capacity to get there. How can we create something that we can have the capacity to grow and do that? And that's where the show idea kind of evolved from there. And, from this show, we're probably going to see a ton of assets coming afterwards that we distribute, right? To the point that we're now publishing about 100 times a week. Right? We have some road to cover there to catch you. But it's okay.
It's not a race.
No, absolutely not. But the thing is, like, why we got there, because the more we publish, the more we establish these conversations, like people share the content, they like it. We see the people that we are attracting is the people that sync with the message, right? Like, so, let the message be that filter for you. And it's been working. We're like, well, if it's working, why not? And I remember we started working with a client in January, right? And they publish about 55 times a week. So a little bit like half, and they're a corporate client, right? And they were like super concerned about this. They're like, no, that's like way too much. Like our people, and well, guess what? They had a Facebook group with 0 people when we started. Now that they almost got to 2,000, they almost triple sales, and they sell houses. They sell houses through social media, which is insane, right? And they're like, how can we publish more, guys? And we're like, oh, sweet, let's turn out the gas. Here we go. Here's the system, and it's incredible because they've seen it through the data, right? And that's why you saw. You're like, implement something that you can execute depending on your capacity. You did mention that you have some help now, so obviously, to get this point, we also have help now. But at the very beginning, it started with just a Facebook Live. So start building that base and go there. So what would you say to somebody that might have we try not to convince anybody because we want to have a conversation with somebody that's already like into what we do. But if you're in a cocktail party and this person is like, no, you have to like publish like twice a day, like what would you say to that person that thinks that way?
So, I mean, I really look at publishing anywhere, whether that be on a podcast or, on my blog or a social media post, as kind of a lottery ticket. So you're buying a lottery ticket. So you basically, like when you're starting out, you're going to have a smaller budget for buying lottery tickets. Like, let's not mortgage the house and all that kind of stuff. But as you grow, and it would be foolish of you once you start hitting the lottery to not keep buying lottery tickets. And the odds are way better than the actual lottery. So I'll just throw that out there. But one of the things I see on my own blog that most people don't really process until they hear me say it is I have 10,000 blog posts, but like only about 1% of those drive the majority of the traffic. So like you've heard of the 80-20 rule. I think with long form content, a lot of times, especially blogs, it might be more 2%, 98%, and that kind of stuff. So I'll have one or two, like, so that month that I had this summer that did really well, the majority of that was off of one blog post. But if we hadn't written that blog post that day, then we wouldn't have gotten that traffic. And so that's where, like, that's why it's much easier to stop thinking about perfection when you're like, whoop, it's a lottery ticket. Like, we're going to enter the lottery, and today we get to enter, 5 times. Tomorrow we get to enter this so many times. So, and with, you can increase your odds by, search engine optimization and learning how to post so that people will share it on Facebook and Instagram and all these other things, Pinterest. And your email list is obviously really, really important because that's a guaranteed. I mean, like those people, they're going to come back day after day after day. And by the way, I send out a daily email. So anyone who says that you can only email your people once or twice a week, I have the data to prove that too. So yeah. So, but I think when you think about it more as a lottery, and that this content, And then you don't have to be sad. Like, I mean, I have great blog posts that nobody has read in years, and I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm a little grumpy, but like, I'm okay with that because there are some that, that continuously, it's not always the brilliant ones either, which kind of
DM like, hey guys, by the way, there's these amazing blog posts here. I'm just going to drop it. You read it. Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I do that in my email list every once in a while. I'm like, I feel bad because no one's read this in a while and I really like it, and they'll go read it.
That's
awesome.
True fans.
That's the true fans, the power of being consistently in front of people, right? They want to hear about you at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
If not, they wouldn't sign up for your email list. So if I feel like you're betraying their confidence if they sign up for your email list and you only email them once a week. Like,
right, exactly.
And I'm like, hey, I want to hear from you. Yeah, I sign up for you.
I promised you, I wanted to tell you the story about the business. The content. So, because I think there's so much overthinking of content out there.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that one of my business partners, her name is Jamie. She also is a blogger. She writes totallythebomb.com. And she and I had wanted to do something fun on video. And this was early on with Facebook Live and I was doing live talking head videos, but we wanted like a show. We wanted to do a show. And so my husband's a little crazy and we have like this video set up at our house. And a green screen. So we thought of the show called Craft with Crap, which is basically an hour-long show. And we're given 4 identical items and 20 minutes to craft something amazing. And then we like go head to head, like describing our item. And then the people watching can vote for which they think is the winner in emoji form only. And then we do it all over again. So it takes about an hour. And I mean, it's silly. Like most of the things turn out to be a hat because it's just easy to make a hat out of almost anything. And it's just goofy. And one of the kind of the things that we were always laughing about was we were super stupid calling it Craft with Crap because no sponsor is ever going to like sponsor something with crap in the name. And it's silly, like no like redeeming values. It's just like kind of a goofball thing that we did. And we were doing it once a week. And so, of course, we were making no money. In fact, we were losing money because, like the production cost and all that kind of stuff. So one of my friends was making money selling these clothes. And so we said, we already have a video audience. So why don't we start selling these clothes? And so we would do Craft with Crap. And then we'd be like, hey, guys, come watch our show, our clothing show. And so, it made sense that those people would then come over and buy clothing because it was LuLaRoe. So it was like leggings and shirts and stuff like that. So pretty inexpensive stuff. So we were doing really well with the clothing, which made sense to me. But then what happened next, because LuLaRoe is a multi-level marketing company, is that we recruited over 120 people onto our front line. And what you need to know about that is that is a $6,000 to $8,000 commitment for a business opportunity to sell clothes. And so we were so busy, of course, like training them and figuring out, getting them successful and showing them how to do all this on the internet and stuff like that. Yeah. Because our team was really profitable. Like you've heard crazy stories about LuLaRoe, but anyone on our team, that was not the case with them. They were really profitable and did really, really well. So, but we hadn't had time to sit back and analyze like what we had done. We're kind of in the frantic, kind of forward motion of just getting everything done. So it was about, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 months into it. We were after a show, we were just kind of collapsed, and my husband put on the very first episode of Craft with Crap on the big TV. And we were just like laughing at how stupid we were and like how like archaic and like, rudimentary that first episode was. And then Jamie was like, Holly, look at who's commenting. And almost without fail, all the people that were commenting on that very first Craft with Crap episode were people that had then, within that year, spent $6,000 to $8,000 on a business opportunity with us.
Wow.
So if I had reverse engineered this, like if I had said, I need to go out and make content that would recruit people to a $6,000 to $8,000 business opportunity, I would have screwed this up royally, because I would have been like, Business 101, how to do this, how to do this. I would have been all businessy. When the key to our success was that people liked, knew, and trusted us. So that when we said, hey, we have this and we'll train you, they actually believed us and they signed up.
Wow.
So that's what I think we've got to stop overthinking this. People just want to connect, and they just want to know that you're not trying to rip them off like everyone else on the internet is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that story. We need a big round of applause right now. Standing ovation. Yes.
Wow,
yes.
that's so good.
Holly, that's amazing.
I'm taking notes here because I need to remember this. I'm like, re-listen to this again, please.
Well, I think you're recording this so you could listen to it later.
Yeah, this we're gonna be super transparent here. We do this show for us. If they want to come in and hang out, awesome. Like, they're more than welcome. That's what we do live. Thank you. And then there's the audio coming out in 2.5 weeks, by the way, plugged in. All this is going to be awesome in the podcast. And then there's a ton of content coming after that.
If you're listening and you haven't subscribe.
Go subscribe, please. Yeah.
Holly, I love this story, and I love the lottery ticket to analogy. We actually have one we call the extrovert theory, right? And we all have that friend that he's a little bit extroverted, but he always gets lucky, right? And we're like, how does that person always gets lucky? Like, he manages to get every single opportunity. Yeah. Well, it's the same with content. Like, if we only publish content once, we're only gonna get in front of a very limited amount of opportunities. But we are consistently putting ourselves out there and putting ourselves in front of more people. We're gonna be putting ourselves in front of more opportunities, therefore more rewards, right? And I feel like it's so difficult for people to embrace that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is the fear, what is stopping them, right? But there's something that they are, again, just post 2 times a day. I don't know if it's that belief that
I like that took root like very deep. And it's like, but the incredible thing, like you started seeing the results, and it's wonderful. We started seeing the results. It's wonderful. Our clients are starting to see the results, and they're like, give me more, right? Like, if you have the system and the capacity, they're like, let's go. And they don't even I remember the relationship at first was like, they would look at the data every single week. They're like, tell me the data, what's happening? And we're like, it keeps growing, guys. Like, there's no and then now they don't even ask. They're just like, okay, sweet. Like, how many pieces? Okay, sweet, awesome. Let's keep going, because they also control the message from the macro content, like their show that they built, and it's so amazing. So I think we smashed that belief today.
Yeah, let's go. More posting twice a day.
Let's go
post 75 times a day, guys.
No. You're all gonna hate me if that's what you take away from this.
No. It's okay, Holly. I'm actually gonna put here a little resource that we have for those that are listening. We have a resource called the Publishing Pyramid, which is the journey that led us to go from just one Facebook Live to now around 100 pieces of content a week,
without pissing anybody off.
Without pissing anybody off. And it's actually, it teaches you that it's about the message consistency, capacity, and understanding what is your capacity, right? So if you guys are interested, just slide in the DMs at BizBrosco. We are ready to send it to you. Yeah, Holly, I'm loving all this conversation, and I love the part of course of the authenticity, right? And how people do business with people. Like, that's it. It's as simple as that. Like, if they connect, because look, it's no big deal that there's probably other people out there that do exactly the same thing that you do with their blog, and they offer very similar things that you do with their blog, right? But some people connect more with your personality and your partners and the people that you have in your blog rather than the personality of other people, right? So I think people out there need to use that as they need to leverage their personality, but they feel they need to portray certain, persona online so they can get business. But it's like, no, just be yourself, like we like to be, and we always go back to this story, but when we first started selling social media marketing agencies, I was dressed up in a suit trying to sell a Mexican restaurant to hop on a social media plan.
He didn't even wear us to my wedding, Holly. Like that's
Barely.
like how bad it was. Yeah.
Barely. Exactly. But like that was not me, right? And guess what? That relationship had so much friction with that business because it didn't start the right way, because it was not me showing up. It was some other Fonzie showing up in that business. And it's exactly the same right now, right? Like hopefully people that are watching this are like, wow, like these guys are so much fun. These guys are so cool. Like, I want to work with them. I want to be right next to you. Same as you, Holly, right? Like she is so authentic. She's so nice. I want to be right next to Holly and learn from Holly. So if you're listening right now, guys, be authentic. Just be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Now, Holly, to land this plane, I feel like we could just go Joe Rogan style and just continue for like.
I know, come on.
Next one, we'll do it live in Dallas.
Ooh, let's go.
That'd be good.
We just received an invitation today to go to a live show in Dallas to record this podcast. So we might have to like visit as well.
I didn't know that, but that's so cool.
Yeah, Nate with wine. Okay,
thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're. I mean, you're in that text thread, so I don't know. Okay. Anyways, Holly, let's land this plane. Best questions of the show right here. So, one is, what is your action point for somebody that's starting in this journey of publishing, that maybe already started and they're getting that traction, right? They want to multiply their message. What will be your number one action point to them?
So definitely just do it. So just publish, just hit publish. And then I do think like set yourself up for success, making things easy. Like if you don't like editing video, then don't do something that causes you to have to edit video. If you like, I just started a new podcast and we like literally did some research to make sure that if I was away from the computer, we could still do this, because we didn't want that friction actually, you don't want the excuses, because your brain will always go to the excuses. Yeah. So just removing those things and not worrying so much about think about it as like a long game. So like, who cares if no one reads or likes or sees this next thing? You're not in this for today. You're in this for a year from now. And there's no way to get there without this step. So that takes a lot of the pressure off of like everything having to be like brilliant, because you're going to suck. You're going to suck big time, like for a really long time. And then you'll still suck when you try things new. So
exactly. I promise you, it's like, if you're listening, thank you, by the way, just sticking with us all the way here. But if like these two little Hispanics can like have a podcast in English with our accent, you can do it too. I promise you.
Yeah, and Holly, you said one of our favorite phrases right now, which is remove the friction. It's as simple as that, right? Like when we started, our goal was Gary Vee and Russell Brunson. So like we want to have some content like them, and we jump immediately into trying to create that. And guess what? We failed miserably because there was so much friction in there. So the learning curve was more like a learning, abyss. It was huge, just like going up there. I think I said it wrong, but it's okay. And Holly, like again, I'm kind of like throwing here another call to action for the listeners. But if you go to content-gooroo.com, we have a cheat sheet with the minimum viable content, which is literally it's removing the friction. It's the principle that we use to start publishing. That's all it is. So for bringing that up. We didn't plan that. Just
Holly, now I think this is my favorite question in the show. Like, where will you be if you did not publish?
Oh, I would probably. I mean, my life would be so different because my husband and I, run the company so we work from home. We could live anywhere in the world we want to. We partially homeschool our kids so that they're home a lot. I mean, like our lives would be completely different. We're going to go spend, 2 weeks skiing in December and we're going to spend some time in the beach in January. And that, if I had my physical therapy 9-to-5 job, that would be, and he was a doctor, there would be no way we could get the time off or the schedule off. And besides the fact that, I don't know, like I love I think even more than just designing the life is the people that you are like introduced to because of this lifestyle, and the other people who are just kind of like hustling and the before and after life is like it was a lot of hustle and busyness when I had a traditional job. And now, yes, there's a lot of hustle and busyness, but it's just like almost a breath of fresh air instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Again, for us, it just keeps us moving forward. And people are like, "What are you guys gonna do next year?" Same thing. Like we're just enjoying this. Like we love it. Yeah, my wife's like, "You work too much." I'm like, "Am I really working?" Probably not. Like I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Holly, for being here today. If people want to connect with you, if they want to listen to your show, if they want to like know anything, Holly, like where do they go?
So the new podcast, I'll mention that first, is called The Jamie and Holly Show. It's Jamie and I who did Craft with Crap. Super silly, nothing redeeming values. So don't be thinking you're going to come like learn a bunch of stuff unless what to watch on Netflix is on your need to know. And then you can find me at kidsactivities.com, the Quirky Mama Facebook page. And then if you're interested in kind of behind the scenes of how to put like this, how to do online things, then hollyhomer.com is where you want to go.
That's awesome. Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much. Guys, go do us a favor and go check out her podcast and support the podcast, The Jamie and Holly Show. I know I'm going to be listening to it as well.
Subscribe. I need subscribers. We just launched last week.
We'll subscribe and leave a review as well. And, if we like it, 5 stars. Only
if you don't like it, then just pretend like it never happened.
Okay. We'll leave a 5-star review as well. Guys, you know what to do. Just smash that subscribe button. Not only at Holly's, if you guys want to smash it at Content Profit too, we'll take one too. Exactly. 2 for 1 today. 2 for 1, right? That's amazing. Thank you so much. We loved having you here. It was extremely refreshing.
Yes.
I have one last question. I'm gonna put you on the spot right now.
I didn't know this about Holly, so whatever happens, not my fault.
Holly. We've had this battle for the last few episodes. A friend of ours started. He said, you guys should start a campaign called Pick a Bro. Who do you think is the coolest brother?
I think I'm gonna just not answer this question. Refuse to answer this question. I have no idea.
But you like Luis a little bit better. Okay, thank you, Holly. Oh man! And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button and follow us on social media at BeastBrosGo.
That is right. If you find this episode impactful, please don't forget to share it and go check out the Jamie and Holly Show. Woo. And leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.